Okay, we're live. Now we're live on our Facebook again with our Migrant Women Reality Watch. And we're very happy to welcome today Dr. Ingeborg Kraus, who is based in Germany, speaking to us from Germany. And Dr. Ingeborg is herself as an expert in trauma, and she's a psychologist. And specifically, she knows a lot about the trauma inflicted on women or other persons through prostitution, through exploitation and prostitution. She's been working on this subject for a long time. We only have half an hour, so I'm going to go directly. Ingeborg, if you could introduce your work. For us, it is very important. We work with migrant women, a lot of whom are exploited in prostitution. We know about different types of physical violence and violations of women's rights generally, but we don't hear so much about the psychological and mental health consequences of prostitution in this your area. If you could tell us about this.
Yes, exactly. And this is very important, that people understand. Because if you go into German brothels, they're not locked up. The women can leave, they are free to leave prostitution. And if you go there, but they're inside of themselves, they are not free. Because of the trauma they have experienced before, they are experienced during prostitution. They are locked up in this trauma. And if you go into the brothels and ask them, are you there voluntarily? Most of the women will say yes. And I try to explain, what is in fact staying behind this yes. This yes doesn't mean yes. It means I have no other options. And most of the times they're not aware of those chains. Do you say this? Chains they are trapped in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is just one answer. I could give you many answers about this. Of course, there are also many women have no other possibility, to do that. And this is what we are trying to say with this network of trauma experts and also myself for now very long years. And it's now a network, I want to say it, we are there are 174 trauma experts, medical doctors who are specialized in trauma therapy, and also psychologists who are specialized in trauma therapy, who are saying, prostitution is not a job as any other. Never. It's always sexual violence, and all the people who have signed this appeal, are saying this, and are for the implementation of the Nordic model.
When you say appeal, what is this appeal? Can you tell us more?
Yes, it's an appeal. It's a statement, where we say prostitution is always violence, and it's degrading women. It's against equality of women. It's against human dignity, and we want, the Nordic model. This is the appeal. And I wrote it 6 years ago, and today 170 experts. That's why I'm saying this network. We are scientists. It's a network of scientists from the medical and therapeutical context who want the Nordic model. Because so far, who were the politicians listening to? Yeah, they were listening to the pimps, to the traffickers, and to those who were doing a lot of profit out of the exploitation of the women. They were listening to them, and we are saying, start listening to the scientists.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And as a scientist with your network, what are the patterns, or what, let's say, if there is a woman and she is in a brothel for 5 years, for example, or I don't know, for 10 years, or even for 3 or 2 years, what are the psychological consequences or other consequences, but specifically from the perspective of mental health? What do you observe as a scientist, as a specialist in this area?
You know, we noticed for years and years, for over 1,000 years, of course, but now when we look at the newspapers in the last 20 years, you can notice a banalization of the harm in prostitution. The harm starts with the first sex buyer. You know, people always say, yes, perhaps, you know, you are not capable to do this job. I'm serious, they're talking like this in Germany. Nobody is capable to do that. I mean, just, you know, go into yourself, try to, you know, think that you have to sleep with 10 strangers. It's not possible. Just to think about this, because a woman who is not traumatized, she would have normal feelings coming up, like disgust, being ashamed, just, you know, don't want to do it. So how is it possible to do it? Just if you dissociate, and you don't dissociate after the 300 sex buyers, you dissociate after the first or during the first experience of prostitution. And thinking, you know, that dissociation is like a switch, you know, you can switch on if you go into the brothel and switch off once you are out of the brothel. It doesn't work like this, you know. It's a surviving mechanism who gets out of control. So you switch off all the feelings, but you cannot switch them on after this experience anymore. But this is what you experience during this sexual violence. You know, you have this this experience memorized somewhere in your brain, and you don't even know where. It's the traumatic memory, and the traumatic memory is tricking you, because when it gets triggered, you know, it gets all the things you would have felt during the sexual violence, you feel it then, and you feel it in another time, in another context. And this is what a prostitution is doing with you, you know. Yes. And then, you know, life, how is looking life then? Life looks like, you know, women are scared to go out, you know. You are, you know, it's like having bombs all the time exploding. Of fear, you know. Not only fear, but I told you, all the feelings who had to be dissociated in that moment pop out. So, and the tricky thing is that you don't only dissociate the bad feelings, but you have to dissociate all the feelings. So, you know, some women are telling me, you know, even sometimes when I stabilize myself, you know, when I start feeling again, then suddenly I feel disgust. You know, when I'm happy, suddenly I feel disgust. I want to throw up, and they don't understand. And this is what we mean with integration. The time after prostitution is very difficult, because, you know, it's like a tsunami, you know, where everything you had to switch off during the time is like coming over you. This is also a reason, you know, why is it so difficult to exit prostitution. And so many women are also going back into prostitution, because when you get hurt, you know, you're dissociating all the time. It's a mechanism you are used to, and you don't feel pain. It's a little bit difficult for you perhaps to understand, but again, you know, the pain will be felt in its all intensity afterwards.
Well, I think from our work, we can draw on some experiences of women who come from the conflict zones, for example, who were subjected to some severe forms of sexual violence or perhaps torture for a long period of time. We've also observed, I mean, I do not know the exact scientific terms for this. I understand that this is trauma for us, it's very clear. And we also see the impact on general social relationship, confidence, ability to integrate into society, the feeling of self-worth and self-esteem in women. It's all very interrelated.
It's totally down, you know. If you get ashamed, you know, degraded, you know, more than 20 times a day. Of course, it does something with your self-esteem. You know, women are telling me, yes, of course, rationally, I understand that, you know, that a person who has, who is worth, you know, who has a worth, but emotionally, I cannot feel it, you know. Because it goes deep, it destroys your self-esteem very deeply.
And so then, speaking about Germany, where you have this system legalized, it's brought to the industrial level. Is there anything that can help the women? I don't mean only the exit program. I understand this is already very difficult, but for anybody who suffers for this kind of violence or traumatic memories or this disassociation, is there any help that these women who are in prostitution that they can seek at all?
Well, you know, the problem in Germany, like 20 years ago or 18 years ago, in 2002, they said it's a job like any other. So, of course, you know, if it's a job as any other, you treat it like being a lawyer or, I don't know what, a cook or, you know, you don't need exit programs for politicians, for cooks. You don't need exit programs, and you don't need psychological treatment as programs for teachers, for example. So we haven't set up, you know, neither a health system for women in prostitution and neither exit programs. There are well, from the state level, they are not existing. You know, there are NGOs who are doing this, but you know, they're really struggling because they don't get any financial support from the state. So we have a lot of organizations that are supported by the state, nearly in every big town. Also in my town, you know, you have two state-financed organizations, but they're not helping with exit and they're not helping with mental health issues. They were just like distributing condoms or how do you say this? Just watching women in prostitution. And now with this crisis, now the politician can see the mistakes they have done, you know, because from one day to the other, you know, everything what were telling for many, many years is visible, you know.
How is it visible now?
First of all, you know, 80% of the women went back. You know, suddenly, well, from one day to the other, all the brothels had to be closed. Every city managed it a little bit different in Germany, so I cannot say, you know, if it went like this all over Germany, but all brothels had to close middle of March. Yeah. And then suddenly, you know, 80% of the women went back, like this, or sent back by their pimps. So it was clear, you know, that their not integrated here, and that they have been put there by pimps.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the women, like 20% who couldn't go back, or who stayed in Germany, most of them suddenly were, homeless.
Mm-hmm.
So it was visible that you don't get rich with prostitution. The very, very, very majority of women, like 99%, that don't get rich, it's an exploitation. I mean, if I don't earn money tomorrow, I'm not immediately on the street. They were immediately homeless. They didn't even have enough, to buy themselves food or something. Mm-hmm. So it became visible that, prostitution is exploitation.
Mm-hmm. We actually heard some really gruesome stories from our members who work with women from Eastern Europe, from Moldavia, that there were even traffic jams on the road on some I don't know which cities exactly in Germany, but on the border with other states, when they were sending these women away, and that they were just putting them in the bus, and there were so many buses going out. And yeah, of course, these women had absolutely nothing. It's not like they came back with some savings.
Exactly, and those who went back, they didn't go back with some saving. And also some women wanted to go back and they didn't even have enough money to buy the bus ticket. Yeah. So it became clear that prostitution is at least, financial exploitation of those women. This is clear, you cannot, the politician, if they say still, it's a job where women can earn their life, it's, it's denying the facts.
But what happened with this whole idea that once you legalize it, you protect all the women, they were supposed to receive benefits? Unemployment.
It absolutely didn't work. It didn't work from the beginning on. It didn't work 2002, and 3 years ago, 2017, they did a reform. They called this prostitution protection law, where women have to register, but only 32,000, approximately 32,000 women registered, and we know that there are at least 200,000 or 400,000 women, in the sexual exploitation. Mm-hmm. So not even 10% registered. So the big argument, that they don't want to implement the Nordic model, that everything would, crush in the darkness. It's still an illegal, prostitution stays illegal, even if you have trying to legalize it. It stays illegal.
Mm-hmm. And so what happened? The brothels got shut down in the middle of March, and until now they remain closed, right?
Yes.
And now we heard this news that there are some possibly some, well, if not changes, then some realizations or attempts to change something in Germany at the political level. We know that activists and scientists like yourself, you've been working on this issue, but not much was happening policy-wise. Tell us what happened in the parliament with some addresses to ministers recently.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is now finally, a big step that is happened on the political level. 16 members of the parliament, wrote an official letter to all the states, because we are in Germany, we are a federation like in the United States, and they decided in Germany not to resolve it in Berlin, but to give all the states the power of decision. They don't want to regulate it now from the top, but they say, okay, the states can regulate it the way they want to do it. And now 16 MPs, and very important one, these are not like 2 former health ministers have signed this appeal. The head of the women of the German parliament, the speaker of the lawyers of the right-wing CDU party, I cannot remember, but very important, who have very central positions, have initiated this appeal. They have written a letter who has been sent now to all the heads of the states yesterday. They got this with the recommendation to keep all brothels closed, but not only during Corona, but forever, and to implement the Nordic models that said it, and to help women to exit, because now we see that prostitution is not something sustainable for the women to save, to earn money, but to give them, to help them to exit prostitution, and so that they can enter a job where they can earn their life sustainably. And they said everything we said for years. It's incredible. They said prostitution is against equality, and it's against a human's dignity, and that we have around Germany many countries who have implemented a model, a legal system who is modern. They said a modern way of treating prostitution. The Nordic model, they said that.
Well, some of our viewers are asking if this copy of this letter that they sent is available anywhere.
I still haven't seen it. Yes, but I just saw newspapers writing about and copying some sentences.
Well, this is very, very encouraging development. But of course, we also know that this is a huge profit-making business, and a lot of people would be not as happy about it. And how do you foresee, for example, what do you think the reaction will be from the state, ministers or the heads of the states? And is there any difference between different states, how they approach it, like historically?
I cannot, I don't know, but during Corona, my town, as the only town in Germany, has forbidden prostitution, not only prostitution, but also sex buying. We are the only town in Germany who has implemented sex buying was forbidden, which is, crazy that we are the only town who has done this. And Berlin, for example, who is very liberal, they haven't forbidden prostitution for very long. I think only beginning of April they have forbidden prostitution.
So the brothels were open until beginning of April?
No, the brothels were closed, but street prostitution went on.
Okay.
Like in Frankfurt also, the brothels were closed, but street prostitution was not forbidden. But then in Karlsruhe we have done a lockdown very fast, because of my activism and the connection we have with the mayor. But like in Frankfurt, they locked down the brothels, but street prostitution went on, until very late. I think beginning of April, they shut down everything.
And for the moment, the order to have the brothels shut, it extends for which period of time officially?
It's still going on, and again, as I said in Berlin, we don't want to regulate it, up down. You do what you want, each state has to make a decision. Now, at the moment, everything is still shut down. And some states started last week, saying, oh, we want to reopen the brothels and so on. And with this letter now, who comes from Berlin yesterday, it was so good. Because, and they also wrote like, you are talking about opening brothels, but you don't want open kindergartens. How crazy is that? Really hard work. Yeah.
Well, for me, it only says that there is a very, very powerful financial interest behind it, and not so much the social interests. Well, anyhow, this is all very interesting. I think we do not hear many news from Germany because, not because, Germany is a very powerful state in Europe, and a lot of news comes from Germany, but not specifically with regards to what's happening with prostitution. I mean, everybody is under somehow assumption that everything is wonderful, and we don't really get to scrutinize what is happening in terms of how women are treated. Like, this is a very important information, that when there is a lot of proposals that now we need to protect the women in prostitution by regularizing prostitution, when the reality is that in the state that has regulated it for a long time, the outcome that women are absolutely without any protection. So it's just really a lie that by regularizing it, we protect these women in any way.
Yes, and through my work, I get information from all the people who have signed the appeal, of course, but I had and I have many women who have been in prostitution or have been in prostitution. And you get the reality when you listen to them. I even don't think that through a study you will get so much information. And I'm every time so shocked when I have heard a lot already. But I'm getting so shocked when I hear about what's going on in Germany in the brothels, who are legal, who even got like how do you call this, Siegel, I don't know how you call it. Yes, a star, like this is a good brothel, and
rating,
a good rating.
Yeah.
And when I have women in therapy who have been working in those good ratings brothels, and it's just incredible what they're telling, what's going on there. It's in every brothel, you have trafficking. All the women are trafficked. And heavily they're getting beaten up,
Well, yes, this we know, and a lot of them are trafficked from either from Eastern Europe or from some countries outside of the EU. And these are the women that very often also our members are working with, even though maybe they don't work directly on prostitution as such. but they come regularly across the women who are exploited through prostitution.
Mhm.
And some of them are re-trafficked. So Germany may be just one of the places where they're exploited for a period of time, and then they might be trafficked to another place.
And some of them don't even know that they are trafficked because their own family are trafficking them.
Yes, yeah.
Or this lover boy pimp are trafficking them, and they don't know that they are trafficked.
Yeah. Okay, well, Ingeborg, I know that you have to go. It's past now. I'm really very grateful that you find time, and also with short notice, to join us. And we already posted the link to the website, the Trauma and Prostitution EU. And we will look forward if there is a publication of the actual letter that you discussed. Then maybe we can also share it. I think it will be very
Yes, it would be good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you a lot.
Thank you, and wish you all the best and good luck with your work and with the situation in Germany generally.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.